Reimagining Chapel. My name is Amanda Esco, and I am the director of the religious education program here at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. Let's begin today by lighting our chalice. Do you have a chalice at home? If you do, go run and grab it and come back. We'll light our chalices together. Today, for our chalice lighting, I'm setting the intention of longing with the action of love. Our UU of the week felt this dearly. We light this chalice for the idea that we are longing for more. In the spirit of love, we gather together to grow, to learn, to serve. I am so glad everyone is with me today. It is October, the weather is changing, there's a chill in the air, and we've had great weeks of religious education. Thank you for joining, however you're joining. We have friends joining in person, we have friends joining virtually, and we have friends joining asynchronously, like you are right now on YouTube. Thank you for being part of our community, however you're able to be. Now, one thing I want to talk about, actually two things. We have a couple fun events coming up in the next couple weeks. On October 22nd, we're having another outdoor movie. We're going to bundle up in our blankets and watch outside The Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a favorite around here, and I hope you'll be able to join us. That'll start at 7 p.m., and you'll be able to find more information on our Facebook page or in your RE newsletter. Also, on Halloween, we are planning a trunk or treat. Keep looking out for more information, but set that date in your calendar as something fun for us to do as a community at church. Now, do you need little kids to participate in the trunk or treat? No! You should come, decorate your trunk, or just show up with candy and then pass it out to our friends in religious education. It should be a fun party and a fun day, but we need you. So think about being able to join us that day as well. Now, as we settle into this morning, I want to lead us in a singing meditation that we've done before, okay? Now, it's one where we sing a line and we repeat it over and over again. This act of repetition settles the words into our bodies. So you can say it or you can sing it with me. I'm going to say the words right now. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. This is how the song goes. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. So we're going to sing that 5 times. Are you ready? Okay, let's sing it together. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. Last time. I see myself in joy and love. I know myself, I am enough. Singing makes us control our breath. It brings us to our center. You can't sing and be scattered all over. You have to focus on what you're saying, focus on your breath, or it just doesn't work. Singing is an important spiritual practice, which I know so many of us have missed doing in community. I appreciate us honoring the values of our community of protecting one another right now while we abstain from singing in public. But when we're at home, sing. Sing loud. Let yourself feel that presence of music throughout your body. It's important. What else is important? Sharing. You know, there's that saying, sharing is caring. And I think sharing your joys and concerns is another important spiritual practice. So take a minute, share your joys and concerns with whoever are with you, and I'll be right here waiting for you when you're done. Thank you for sharing your joys and concerns. Next up is our UU of the week, and I actually get to share our UU of the week this week. Our UU of the week is someone that we have featured in the past. She is on our wall, but we don't have her video yet. So we're sharing this history with you today. She's a radical. She was the first to do something, and I adore her. I can't wait for you to hear more about her life. Really cool. Knowing deep inside of yourself that you're meant to do something absolutely no one has ever done before. And that's just what this week's UU of the week did. Maria Cook was born in 1779. She was raised in Western New York with her parents and siblings. From an early age, Maria knew that the idea of God she had was not the same as her parents. She felt a longing in her heart to talk about the God she knew, one based in love, a God who loved people so much, regardless of their race, gender, or class. All were equal and loved in the eyes of her God. Her family did not approve. After her father's death, Maria decided to take charge of her own life, wanting only the approval of her God, not her family. Maria's father left her an inheritance, so she was free to travel as she pleased. In 1811, Maria attended the meeting of the Western Association, the organizing arm of the Universalist in central New York. Many who were in attendance opposed the idea of her speaking. Obviously, women couldn't preach. But she had some friends in the audience who vouched for her ability. She was such a commanding presence that they offered her an informal fellowship letter. While this was not the same thing as a license to preach, it was the closest any Universalist woman would come to the Universalist ministry in the next 58 years. Maria began to tour Universalist pulpits, preaching her love of God to whoever would listen. She was considered for a time the highest paid itinerant preacher in the state, receiving more money in the offering plate each time when she preached than most of her fellow male counterparts. Her popularity did not come without a cost, however. One minister, Paul Dean, was ambitious and did not like the attention that Maria was drawing each time she reached a pulpit. Full of disdain, Paul went about slandering her whenever he could. Maria was so aggrieved that in an act of protest, she publicly destroyed her letter of fellowship. This feud, however, caused Maria to stray from her original calling, preaching about her idea of a loving God. She became consumed with preaching only about her right to preach. Unsurprisingly, people stopped wanting to listen to her, and she was not offered as many speaking engagements. It was a difficult time. In 1813, Maria went to live with some friends in Oswego, New York, to revitalize her career. In Oswego, she was issued a complaint for vagrancy for being a woman who dared to preach in churches. She was arrested, and in another act of protest, she refused to move. She had to be carried everywhere, to the paddy wagon to take her away, to the magistrate or judge. She refused to answer any of the questions and was jailed for contempt of court. Once in jail, however, she recognized that she had another unique opportunity and began to preach her message of a God who loves all to the prisoners and jailers. Her imprisonment became an embarrassment for the state, and they released her after a few weeks. After being jailed, she returned home, not wanting to preach anymore. After all of that, she wanted to create a socialist, idyllic community for people to live and work together in peace. Maria's attempts were unsuccessful, but the creation of a utopian community is one that we will see time and again within Universalist and Unitarian people, like the Transcendentalists out of Massachusetts. Maria became ill and died in 1835. She is remembered as the first Universalist woman to stand in front of a pulpit and share her ideas of faith and service to one another. She was radical and opened doors for the women behind her. May her memory live on in all those who feel a longing in their hearts.
Welcome to the Wonder Box. My name is Lisa Lander, and I'm the Religious Education Assistant at the First Unitarian Church of Salt Lake City. This month, our entire congregation is learning about longing. And spoiler alert, I'm going to give away the ending. Here it is. If we listen closely enough, listening was our theme last month, we might hear a longing in our heart. And at first we might think it's about us. I might think that I'm longing for something or that I want something. But what if that longing is for me? Something bigger than I am trying to connect with me. That's an idea. And I know that one of the most powerful ways the universe communicates with me is through the wonder and the awe that I feel when I'm in nature. So I wonder what wonderful thing is in this wonder box today. Should we see? You guys, this butterfly reminds me of a story from my youth. And by youth, I mean back when I was 21 years old. My husband, Chris, and I both grew up in Salt Lake, but we moved to California in our early 20s. I would never say that we took the beauty in Salt Lake for granted, but we were young and we didn't know anything different. But when you're 20-something and your brain is finally done growing, man, you feel the world in a whole new way. I was filled with awe and wonder by my new surroundings in California. On the weekends, we would point our car in a random direction and just drive. One time, we ended up on a twisty forest road, and I asked Chris if he had noticed how tall the trees were. We craned our necks out the window to see the tops and still not drive off the side of the road, which we then realized was elevated and that the bottoms of the trees were just as far away as the tops. When we passed a tree that was as wide around as our car, it finally dawned on us that these trees must be sequoias or giant redwoods. We had never seen them before. We had ended up on a back road into the Redwood National Forest. And to say that we were overtaken by awe and wonder would be an understatement. So, deciding to make a day of it, we headed down the coast to Santa Cruz for our favorite banana pancakes. We had seen signs for a state park called Natural Bridges on many previous trips, but we had never gone and we didn't know what was there, but we decided to go check it out. So after we finished eating, we left and we arrived at Natural Bridges, trusting the road signs to get us there. We found tide pools and plaques always read the plaques, guys, about the arches that the park was named after, which had long since fallen into the ocean. But as we poked around in the tide pools, we overheard a ranger say that a tour of the Monarch Grove would be starting soon. And guys, I've always wanted to see a grove of monarchs, but I thought they were all in Mexico or faraway places. I had no idea that there was a migration resting area less than an hour from my house, and that I had accidentally decided to visit it. So I was first in line to follow the ranger down the path, and I even edged out a few children in my excitement to see the butterflies. When we got there, we saw a few butterflies fluttering in the air, pairing up in a dance, coming together, and then falling to the ground. But I had expected to see hundreds, if not thousands of butterflies. Then the ranger told us to look closely at the trees. I audibly gasped when I realized what I had mistaken for yellow leaves were actually the monarchs huddled together, cascading down the branches of every tree. I was overwhelmed by their cleverness in keeping warm, by their ability to hide in plain sight, and by the sheer number of them. Then the ranger told us that this was only about 10% of the butterflies that used to rest and mate there only a few years ago. 90% of the monarchs were gone. And this was 20 years ago, so I'm terrified to wonder how many of them are still left. My eyes filled with tears, and I had to swallow a sob as I stood there with the children I had previously raced down the path. This moment of feeling so deeply inspired by nature, and then in the next moment crushed by our impact on it, has informed so much of who I am as an adult. So, after a few years in California, Chris and I suddenly realized that we hadn't managed to make the $1 million that we would need to buy a house there. So, Salt Lake City welcomed us back with open arms. But as we returned to our childhood home, we saw it with new eyes. Mount Olympus, towering over the freeway that we drive almost daily, still takes my breath away, especially this time of year when it is draped in a rainbow of leaves. So, the point is, you don't need to move far away to find wonder. It's everywhere around us, but perhaps we do need to be invited to see it, and more importantly, to see it as something divine. So, Unitarian Universalists draw inspiration from 6 sources, including wisdom from all the world's religions, Jewish and Christian teachings, and science, to name just a few. But our number one source of inspiration is the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. So, I challenge you to stoke the spark of wonder lit by the world around us and to truly feel its warmth. Thank you for joining me for this edition of the Wonder Box, and be sure to come and check us out next time on Reimagining Chapel.